Okay, we should be live. Yes, we are live. Great. So thank you, Matthew, to be here at Quattro Chiacchiere with DeFi Italy, the Italian DeFi community. And for the guys that don't know Matthew, Matthew is the business development of Loopring. That is a platform that now is, launched a very, very interesting product that is based to a interesting layer two solution. So thank you, Matthew, to have you here.
Thank you, Emiliano, so much, and thank you, DeFi Italy, for having me. I appreciate it.
Great. So to start immediately and understand better what Loopring is and what about your role in Loopring, can you explain in a very few sentences what Loopring is and if it's composed by several parts?
Right. Yes. Good question at the end there. Indeed, it is a few parts now, but Loopring is a ZK rollup exchange and payment protocol on top of Ethereum. So we build a protocol for exchanges and payments to be scalable. That is cheap and high throughput, but nonetheless retain the complete security guarantees of Ethereum. So that's what Loopring is. I would add that historically we're just a DEX protocol. That's what we've been for 3 years. But over the past year and a half, we've been working to become the most scalable DEX protocol. And indeed, we became the first ZK rollup a few months ago. And only recently did we kind of extend the functionality of scalable exchanges into scalable payments, because it kind of goes hand in hand. So that's what we are. So all of that you could kind of see that's the organization. You mentioned a few parts. That lives, let's say, at loopring.org, where you'll see all the research, the protocol work, the open source protocol. You'll have links to that there. We also build the products on top of our open source protocol, which you could see, let's say, at loopring.io, which is an example of a live exchange and now payment application. So those are kind of the components. And yeah, myself, I am leading the business side of things for Loopring. So we're really a team of around 20. I'd say
20.
We're 20, yeah. 18 of us are in Shanghai. I'm in Canada. And our chief architect is in Belgium, but one more engineer in San Jose. Everybody else is in Shanghai, and yeah, we're a very engineer-heavy team. It's just kind of me on the business side, and then our COO and a few marketing colleagues. But yeah, that's Loopring, Emiliano.
Thank you for the very extensive explanation. Then we will go through the details of the various parts also because, ZK rollup is something new for most of us, and it's very technical to understand. I mean, at a low level, but at a high level, it's pretty much straightforward. So before going to the detail, when Loopring start, to be honest? So I know that there are several versions of Loopring. I mean, it started with the 1.5, and then right now we are at Loopring 3. So basically, when it started, did it do an ICO or whatever? We know that there is a token also. So please try to give us some few details about the history of the company.
Yes. Okay, here's a quick history lesson on it. So Loopring launched in July/August of 2017. So right in the beginning of those boom times, and indeed did do an ICO. And so, yeah, by the end of summer 2017, Loopring was formed. It had raised a significant amount of Ether for the ICO. Kind of a little quirky fact that some people don't realize, although these days we've been speaking about it on some podcasts and such. a large chunk of our ICO raise, we actually gave back about 80% of it, kind of the week following the closing of the sale, because China mandated some type of guidance or regulation that said these ICO things are, taking advantage of users. Some of them are not exactly forthcoming. So we raised a good amount, but we gave back just to be kind of compliant with the rules over there. So we gave back there nonetheless. So that's like a little part of the history. But yeah, so 1.0 was just a DEX protocol trying to do order books off-chain, on-chain settlement. 1.5 were some extra features, 2.0 some extra features, but really 3.0 is the kind of large step up, and that's when we started focusing on scalability, specifically via ZK rollups, and that was about a year and a half ago. So about a year and a half into our lives, we said, okay, we want to be, for real and compete with centralized exchanges and not be expensive and not be slow. So that's when the ZK research started for us. And that culminated, I guess, in December of 2019, when we launched the first ZK rollup on Ethereum. And yeah, I've been enjoying it ever since, slow but steady growth. And here we are today.
Yeah, that's great. So seems to be that, for example, at the very beginning, you started like, for example, 0x protocol. So doing something, off-chain matches, off-chain, book management, and then, just the settlement of the order matches on-chain. But then you evolved in something that is more scalable, and you built a protocol for the DEX, but also a solution for the transfer of value. So namely assets like tokens. So in this way, we know, because it's the first thing that we see when we go to the loopring.org, the DEX. So the DEX is quite straightforward to understand. We know that you have to register to start to operate on it. And then we have also Loopring Pay, that you recently launched a Gitcoin bounty for, having a front end about it. So how, obviously you are the best person to explain, because you are not so technical, so you can explain in human word that the user can understand. So how the DEX works and how the Loopring Pay works, because they are different products, also dedicated to different kind of users, because the Loopring Pay could be used by normal user, and the DEX is more oriented for the traders,
Right. You're absolutely right, Emiliano. So but it's helpful to think of not such a difference between the exchange and the payment. It's helpful to think of what is a ZK rollup, and then once you're in this like ZK rollup environment, what can you do? That's how I'll try to explain it, but you're absolutely right. So the first thing, a ZK rollup is just, and here is, I was joking the other day in a podcast, explain like I'm 4, okay? Not explain like I'm 5, but, we only want to, as a rule of thumb, to go fast on Ethereum, or cheap, cost effective. We want to use Ethereum as least as possible, right? Only when it's completely crucial and gives us the security guarantees we're all here for, and all the other fun, DeFi guarantees. But until we need to use Ethereum, let's not clog the network and require interaction. So a ZK rollup, and perhaps helpful to think about where it gets its name. What is a rollup in general? Because we'll see there's a few flavors, ZK and optimistic. We could talk about that in a few minutes, but a rollup just means there's some person off-chain, some actor or entity. In our we call it an operator or a relayer. It's a thing, an off-chain thing, that is rolling up a lot of transactions that people are sending to it. And when it has a big enough batch, it does this mathematical computation, it generates a zero knowledge proof. In our case, a ZK snark. It's basically just a little thumbprint that is the output of a computation that says this is what happened in the batch, or this is the state of affairs of this off-chain structure. So some entity, this operator, is rolling up 4,000 transactions, putting it through this like compression machine, let's call it, this compression and computation machine.
Washing,
and then it has
basically.
something, exactly, and then it has something very small, and it's very lightweight, you know, you just put that on Ethereum, and Ethereum is acting like as a verified smart contract on Ethereum, is just like ready to receive these little compressed notes. And it says, okay, yep, that is true, because it's a validity proof. The proof could not have been generated if it wasn't true. It would have been stuck somewhere in that good sound you just made. If it wasn't true, if the operator tried to cheat, it wouldn't have come out. It would have been stuck. So the fact that you could put this proof on chain that had rolled up all and aggregated all the transactions, that is what you are putting on chain. And that is how a roll up of any sort scales, by doing a lot of computation off chain, but just representing it with like a small thumbprint of its veracity or its truth or validity. And that is what a ZK rollup is. Now, back to the exchange and payment question. When a user enters the Loopring ZK rollup, they're basically telling the operator at first to say, hey, I am, Emiliano.eth. I'm not sure if you are, to be clear.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, then, good. I am Emiliano.eth, right? That is that's associated with 0x7A3. I want to enter your off-chain environment, so please do that. That takes an on-chain transaction, and now this operator kind of slots you into our data structure off-chain, which is a Merkle tree. So now Emiliano.eth is mapped to account ID number 1472 in the ZK rollup. And you could bring your assets with you. If you want to put some assets in there, you just make a deposit. Again, it's a one on-chain transaction here to deposit some DAI or ETH or whatever, and that gets mapped to your slot in the Merkle tree in this off-chain world. From there, Loopring allows you to do basically two things. You could trade, or you could make simple transfers. So it's like an exchange once you're in there, very low cost, high speeds, kind of instantaneous actions, just as if you're on Binance or Coinbase Pro, or you can make payments. And when you do one of those requests, that is one of the components that I had mentioned, that the roll-up aggregator is rolling up. And then when he has 4,000 of such changes in the Merkle tree, that is what he is proving and putting on chain. So Emiliano, now I hope that's somewhat clear of an explain like less than 5, but that's it.
No, I mean, it's very clear. Usually when I explain about the rollup, I use the term squashing stuff and obtaining, a proof. So basically what you are doing is moving the computation. Part of the computation you are moving off chain, and you are generating something like a hash in traditional, word, that you can verify that the state changes, the changes that you want to apply. I mean, the changes in the balances of the users. You don't have to repeat all the movements that you did. You just basically say to the blockchain, hey, this is the end result, and this is the signature, in some sense, the proof that this should be like this for this scenario. So that's the idea, but you explain very, very, very well. So yes, an application, as you mentioned, for the ZK rollup is the exchanges, because you have many operations very similar, because this is one of the key, because you can compress if you do the same stuff many times. And the same stuff is less complicated, the transfer between assets. So that's quite interesting. So one of the key questions of then we pass to the question of our users is basically, okay, but I have to move my assets basically to the in some sense, not side chain, because it's a different technology, but in the ecosystem of Loopring. So one of the questions and one of the challenges are, but in addition to, a DEX or the transfer of an asset. Is it possible to use any other protocol on top of Loopring? It's not maybe possible now, but it would be. So what about the isolation issue? So the silos issue.
Right. Very well said, by the way. And yeah, that is, if somebody asks me the biggest drawback of a ZK rollup, it is the fact that it is not usable as other scaling solutions, or of course as layer one. Kind of those compression machines that everything is going through, they're not very spacious. You know, you can't like do arbitrary computation and replicate like the EVM. As you said, it does one thing and one thing well. Or you know, you code up these ZK circuits. Those like, you know, compression machines, those are like running the ZK circuits. It's like kind of the equivalent of the smart contracts in this other world. You cannot do arbitrary computation. We cannot right now replicate MakerDAO in there, or other or a Uniswap right now. Indeed, and some of this is certainly not in my area of expertise, but I think you could, like, really, we're waiting for advancements in cryptography, I think, to be able to kind of pack, to be able to make more fancy types of applications in zero knowledge. Right now, like you have these things called constraints in these circuits, and they, you know, they reach in the hundreds of millions, and those are kind of the arithmetic operations that you're trying to prove. Like that's kind of what the compression machine is doing. You cannot larger. At some point, I believe you actually start getting, if you do write something with a lot of constraints, then it's a very heavy package. You lose some of the compression. It's not
any more efficient, basically.
It's not any more efficient, exactly like that. So ZK rollups right now are really good for trading and for transfers. I mean, Loopring is the only live ZK rollup on Ethereum right now, but there will be others coming. But those as well are focused on transfers and trades. The people that are trying to solve the more arbitrary generalized computation are the optimistic rollups, which I don't know if you want to get into, but it is true. The final thing I'll say about the silo, it is, you're right, like a helpful way to think about a Loopring based application or exchange is that it's kind of like a legacy application or a centralized, it's like Coinbase Pro or Kraken, but the operator's hands are completely tied. They cannot wrong you. You have the security of Ethereum. So you have to get into that environment. You're in a silo there. You have to get out of that environment. But once you're in there, you are, you know, the king of your domain. No, they can't seize your funds. They can't do anything. As long as Ethereum exists on a ZK rollup, you have your funds back. So the composability is lost, but the general view, from my understanding, is we will be able to kind of obtain the composability if certain things build on the same ZK rollup, if the advancements in cryptography get there. So it's not a hopeless cause, but for sure you want to do one thing and do it well right now.
Yeah. That's otherwise you are too, you are leaking. You are not focusing, and you cannot have moment in this sense. I know that Alex from Matter Labs yesterday or the day before published he is a very good guy, a comparison, and basically ZK Sync, the product of Matter Labs that is going to be live probably in the next days or weeks, is very close to you. And so my question is, how do you compare your technology, or why did you opt for that specific path instead of an approach like Startex for Diversify that has the plasma issue, so the data availability issue? So why you chose to go in that direction that in some sense is less performant because you cannot scale too much, as for example this kind of solution has, but at the same time guarantee some sort of trust in terms of the users. So why you branched in that direction?
Right. Yeah, so you have a very good understanding of the landscape, and indeed that comparison table was very cool to see from Alex. I mean, you also basically give the answer. For us, the most interesting thing is maintaining 100% Ethereum security guarantees. And ZK rollups are the only one that could do that without, some little asterisk or some little caveat saying, oh, but like before you mentioned the word, sidechain. And it's true that like this ZK rollup is kind of creating those like 4,000 things, and that's like a ZK rollup block, which it then puts on Ethereum. So it is like a side chain of sorts in the sense that it's making a ZK rollup block and putting it on. However, as our chief architect likes to call it, it's not a side chain, and it's not even like layer. It's not even really layer 2. It's like layer 1.5 because it's so tightly coupled to Ethereum. There's no extra validators where you're saying, okay, these 8 people keep our data, and these 21 people are our node, are our validators that are,
doesn't need to be live. You don't need an external system that,
exactly.
I mean, the user, if you fail or whatever, they can get back easily.
Exactly. So for those properties that a ZK rollup offers us, the ability to just, tell a user, hey, as long as Ethereum exists, you can recreate the state of the Merkle tree, recreate the state of affairs, and say, hey, that is my balance. And you submit, in the worst case scenario, you kind of submit your own block, so to speak. It's like that roller upper, that operator kind of left, he's not live anymore, or he turned malicious. He can't do anything. All that needs to happen is that to get their assets back. So that is, oh, you lost me for a sec?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm back. But so what I was saying is, yeah, just the absolute most security guarantees are with a ZK rollup. We find it's fast enough, right? We could do 2,100 trades per second or 4,200 transfers per second. That's plenty right now. We don't want to go 20 times faster if it means we have to kind of have a little star saying, not as secure as Ethereum, but you have to rely on these other assumptions. And just maybe a quick brief explanation is, ZK rollup, what's the difference between the other validity proof system like Validium? It's just that they don't put some extra data on chain. So they have like a lighter load. They're not putting specifically the deltas of each transaction, of each Merkle leaf. We put that on chain. A rollup puts that data on chain, on Ethereum, in the call data. So it's like a smaller incremental cost per transaction. Whereas Validium, the new cool term for ZK Plasma, what StarkX is doing with Diversify, which is really cool to be frank.
Very cool, yeah.
Yeah, just a different design decision. They could go faster, but their data is kept by kind of a consortium of 7 or 8 data notaries or data guarantors that in the worst case scenario, a user must say, hey, group, I need my data back so I could assert my balance. So it's a trade-off. It's different strokes for different folks. If you need that, that's
yeah. No, it's completely clear. I mean, it's just of a trade-off decision. I mean, for example, if I were a centralized user, usually when you opt for a specific exchange, basically you already have that level of trust, and that basically in this sense for you there is no difference between a more clear approach like you that is basically the safest one, then in the data operator for the StarkX, for Diversify, there are players like Infura. If I think that Infura can cheat, then I have another problem. So basically, me as a trader for a centralized exchange, I would like to be as fast as possible. So probably some of them will opt for that kind of solution. But at the end of the day, we have a mix of users. So basically, the one that are, I saw recent statistics that now many big traders are just operating on decentralized exchanges. We have very good guys on the DeFi ecosystem that are not using anymore at least basing on what they say, because maybe it's not true. But this is something is interesting because we have a portfolio of solution. This for me means of, okay, the system is maturating. I mean, it's growing very well, because for the one that are just focused on the speed and trust, we have platforms like Diversified that do a very good job. And to be honest, they recovered from ETH Phoenix at the very beginning. It was not so used. And then we have more hybrid approach, more safer, like you, for example. So this was just my consideration. I would like to move a little bit, because we have many questions around that related to the DEX features. So first of all, some of the users are asking if we are going to see many and many pairs on the exchange, and along to that, if we are starting to see other kind of tools, like, for example, leveraged positions, borrowing, so this kind of stuff. So in terms of the Loopring DEX, what we are going to see, what's in the roadmap?
Right. Okay. Yes, those are
if you can share, obviously.
Yeah, we definitely, I could share 95% of things. We're not very secretive about what we want to do. We're very open. The whole space, but there's some up our sleeve for version 4 as it is, and we won't divulge that completely, but some people could probably make some guesses. But yeah, as far as the exchange, so you mentioned pairs first. We have, I don't know, maybe a dozen pairs right now, something like that. We want, I get questions every day. Hey, could you list this? Could you list that? We could list any ERC20 token. It has to be an ERC20 token. The reason we don't just list everything right now, and this is an internal discussion we have, is because you don't really want to, it's an order book, right? This is an order book exchange. A user needs to go there and kind of see, okay,
see liquidity,
yeah, these are all the asks, these are all the bids. It's not like Uniswap, right, or Kyber, where it's like these reserves or these automated market makers where you just go and you could kind of have a decent experience even with very little liquidity. That's not really true, because if you go to a Uniswap pool with $100 and you make a $50 order, it's huge slippage. So, but it's just easier to bootstrap liquidity, because the community or liquidity partners can just deposit, right? And that, but for an order book exchange, you need somebody, a market maker, or a market maker, some bot that says, okay, I am putting my ETH to DAI asks here and my bids here. So we don't want to list pairs that are just flat with nothing to start with.
Clear.
Although, to be frank, I kind of am getting more open to the idea of listing things without such a heavy plan of having market makers who are making the books attractive from second one. Because here's a little just anecdote. We listed DXD, the DXD ETH pair. DXD is the token of the DXDAO, which is a really awesome project, something Loopring has been involved in since inception a year ago, and now DXDAO is picking up steam. And it garnered a lot of support, and people were saying, hey, list DXD, list DXD. So I kind of, against the rest of my team's judgment, I said, guys, please just list the token, because there weren't even market makers that had the token, right? It comes from a bonding curve. Nobody really had it. The DXDAO's portion is locked up. I said, let's just do it. Let's see what happens. So we listed an empty order book, and sure enough, organically, or I mean, semi-organic, I was also pinging a lot of people saying, hey, fan of the DXDAO, it's live, please come help, right? But within an hour, the book was more lively than some of our other ones. And it was doing real volume, pure real volume of 100 Ether, 200 Ether its first days. So I think if there's the preconditions of a lively community that really wants to trade something, if you just say, here it is, I think they could do it, which is we're gonna have to experiment with that a little bit more. Maybe I'm too optimistic and that was like an anomaly case, but that is the reason. So for anybody listening, if you ask, hey, why aren't you listing this token? It's because we want to either work with the team, the token issuer itself, so they could bootstrap some liquidity on the books, or some market making partner that will have that token and bootstrap the books. Of course, we don't want to do it ourselves for every pair, because that's not our business, and we don't have the resources. We're trying to build the tech, but yeah,
you're the technology layer, basically. Yeah. So okay, and I mean, my suggestion is we have just to do some sort of research, because one choice is conservative, the other one is more, optimistic, as you mentioned. I think that as soon as you organize, maybe some pair require market making, some other you just offering a place where they can basically trade easily without having all the issues that. I mean, this is the exact moment to have a product like Loopring, because you can trade at any cost, basically. So in this sense, one other question of the user is why you started with an order book DEX instead of an AMM that maybe has limit orders. Because, in DeFi, we saw that AMM, it's very, it's working, You have a Uniswap, you have Balancer, you have a lot of classes of, products based on AMM. And we saw indeed that, IDEX or other players, they did the history, they are doing the history, but order book is, very professional in some sense, but at the same time has all the problems that you said. Why did you choose to start with the order book instead of an AMM? And do you have any plan to have an AMM product on top of Loopring technology?
Yeah, so that's a very good question, and one that we get quite often as well. I realize, Emiliano, I didn't satisfy your previous question, who said, are there any other features coming on the DEX, not just the order pairs? So let me just say, yes, we are highly aware that people like to trade other things than just spot trading, whether that's leverage or other instruments. We are aware, we are working on it. The truth is, it's not trivial to do that in a zero knowledge environment. Again,
it's not the same using secrets, yeah.
Right, so we have to, everything's a bit harder, right? Everything for a ZK protocol is like a little bit harder because you have to make it work in the circuits, but it's worth it because you have the security guarantees. But yes, for people that want more advanced order types, more exotic instruments, those are all coming. That is a big thing we're excited about. So it will get there. Now back to the, yeah, sorry, please. Go ahead, Emiliano.
No, please continue if you want.
Yeah, so definitely that's going to happen. Back to the AMM for a second. We built order book. First of all, we started before AMMs were a thing.
I already know the answer, but I want to ask to have a confirmation.
Yeah, sure. But that's not like a good answer, because of course we could switch whatever we do. I mean, we switched halfway through our lives. Now, who, like, really, if you're asking me what is Loopring right now, Loopring right now is the leading, and I don't want to sound overconfident or overextended here, but Loopring started as a DEX protocol. Now it's the leading layer 2 scalability solution on Ethereum in this moment, right? Like, it's not just a DEX protocol, it's the layer 2 scalability solution, right? For exchanging and for payments. But we're like a scalability solution right now. So not just the DEX, but but we believe that, like, order books, the way that much of the world's traditional assets trade, those are not going anywhere. Just because AMMs are really cool and they're working, and we're huge fans of them, that doesn't mean that all asset types that Ethereum and DeFi eventually swallows up, which is our belief, they're not all going to trade AMM style for several reasons. And let me just step back for a second. I'd argue that AMMs are so popular because they made do with the Ethereum environment as it is. They kind of really adapted well to the environment. Order books need, right, like order books invite the same type of participants from the real world, right? Because it's a real thing. So it's people that want to click a button and then cancel and click, like free, right? Like they can't pay for an order submission and then for a cancellation and then all these things. It doesn't make sense.
AMM is native to Ethereum, and the order book are, you know, translating what we have in the traditional world to the Ethereum. Yeah.
Exactly. So you had these AMMs, kind of this like emergent phenomenon that said, okay, we can't really go fast. We can't really like have people add liquidity and take it back so fast. So what can we work with? Oh, let's do this like programmatic curve, and the liquidity is there. So it's almost like it's native to like the Ethereum jungle, right? It's like this like this beautiful species that sprung up because it only knows that jungle. And then here we are trying to, you know, bring a new species into this new environment, but it hasn't been possible until now because of the scalability. So I don't think one is strictly superior. It's also just a different behavior. If I want to trade casually, you know, 100 DAI for, you know, for some
Any reason,
you know, I'm fine with kind of a simple swap. In my head, I differentiate user behavior, simple swaps versus true trading. Simple swaps, click a button, you're not that price sensitive, you're okay to pay 20 cents in gas, and you know you're getting it off the AMM curve. That's fine. But a true trader that is very price sensitive, and you know their margin is made or broken on like, you know, a few basis points.
A few basis points.
That's who we support. But I'll tell you one thing that's quite funny, Emiliano. We support the true traders that want to trade, or even for free. We're like our fees are 0% maker fees and 6 basis point taker fees, or up to 10 basis point taker fees in the highest case, 10 basis points. So those are good for professionals. But actually, if you have money on the ZK rollup, like if you wanted to trade 5 DAI for something, it's not worth going onto the ZK rollup to do it, because you have to remember, deposit your assets there. But if you have the 5 DAI on the ZK rollup, for a simple swapper, it's becoming clear to me that it actually could be better for lower amounts to do it on the ZK rollup versus something simple like Uniswap, because Uniswap's gas or Kyber's gas or Balancer's gas is going to eat into your $5 amount. Whereas if you just do that little simple swap on Loopring, you don't get eaten into by that gas fee. And to be clear, we will, I believe, abstract our order book into just a simple swap UI. Behind the scenes, it's not going to be an automated market maker. It's going to be the order book, but the interface.
Yeah, it's a market order. Yeah, I know.
You get it. So
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. But for example, when I worked with Edu, we did something like that. I mean, at the end of the day, a swap is a market order. So basically, I don't bother about how much will be the slippage. I mean, I will see the average price, but I just want to buy. Please buy, as you may use, for example, Kraken or Bitstamp. I just want these assets. Please buy, because
right.
I'm in the FOMO mode right now. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Very, very clear. We have just 2 questions related to the DEX to conclude, and many people have a question about the LLC token and the staking and things related to that. So the 2 latest questions about the DEX are, the first one is, are we going to see some synthetic assets on Loopring? I mean, synthetic would be, for example, the one from Synthetics, or the one of, maybe there are plenty of other synthetic assets. For example, the Yuma assets, they are another class of, they have another design choice. So what about, because they are very cool for, the no slippage stuff and things like that. So what about these?
Right. If you mean literally listing like synthetics, synths, or UMAs, I'm not sure if they have a prefix word to it, but they're kind of created tokens. if they're ERC20 tokens, we could certainly list them, and people will want to trade it on loopring.io because it's no gas fees and it's super fast. So sure, we could list them, and indeed we've thought about it. Will we create our own synthetic assets on the ZK rollup to begin with? This
is something very cool.
Maybe the more interesting question, and that's kind of what I was alluding to before, and that's indeed something we're exploring. To be clear, we're not trying to get into the complete world of synthetics, but if you describe a synthetic asset as just kind of like a pool of capital plus an oracle, so then two people could take different sides and express their view synthetically, then yes, that may be possible on Loopring more natively than simply listing.
That's quite cool. That's quite cool. Yeah, because we have to remember, in addition to have no cost using Loopring, you have the speed of, okay, click and it's done. We don't have to wait anything in this sense. So the latest question of the DEX is more related to the protocol itself. Could be another question, but obviously we have to do. So we had in many, we have many of these kind of events of hacks or issues into the decentralized world, in the, decentralized world too. We can remember D-Force, Fulcrum, the problem related to the design choices of the Black Thursday of Maker. So what about the security and the audit process of Loopring? I know that there are many opinions on that. There are people that say, you guys are going, how to say in American, reckless driving with ZK rollup. So you're going too fast. But I would like to also hear about, the other parts, especially the one that is involved. So what about the status of your audit, and what's your vision about, security? Because we know also about the, the famous event of, the password issue that happens in Loopring. So what about your position?
Right. So that is, by the way, I got cut off right after you said the reckless driving thing. I lost you for a second, but I think I understood.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm not American, I'm Canadian, so.
You don't have reckless driving? Because I have a problem related to reckless driving in USA this year, but that's another story.
Yes, exactly. But look, to the extent that anything on Ethereum could have a smart contract bug, yes, Loopring exists in that world with everything else. I don't view it, just because we're at like the cutting edge of the technology and we're the first ZK rollup, I don't think that means we're reckless driving. It's actually, if you kind of think about it, we're like the most prudent, we're like a 90-year-old slow driver in the way we build our things. We don't take any risk. We're not driving recklessly. Our whole ethos and our design decisions are to never allow for anything to get in between a user and their assets, right? That's why we go with the ZK rollup way. Are we building it in a reckless fashion? I mean, I really think not. I guess some people could think that just because we're first, but I mean, we've been building this for a year and a half. They've been audited by SecBit extensively. We have the audit report on our blog, and then more rounds and more rounds. It's been, so to be clear, that's the protocol. The Loopring protocol is a bunch of open source smart contracts and open source zero knowledge circuits. Those have been audited. Those have never been compromised to date at all. So we think it's very secure, because going back to, you mentioned D-Force or other ones, those things happen. We don't even actually have, or Fulcrum was was an Oracle issue. We don't actually exist in that world where things could affect us. We don't need to like send a price time sensitively where like collateral could be drawn down, stuff like that. So all those considerations as it stands, we have none of those. We don't rely on like an Oracle to like keep a system collateralized. We mentioned synthetics. In the future, if we have these like native synthetics on our platform that require, then we are exposed to like those kind of like crypto economic Oracle front running problems. Right now, we just simply don't have none of those considerations. I think we are a completely security focused team. Again, we're all engineers. We're not like kind of reckless marketers hyping up first. You know, in fact, for our 3-year history, we've been really bad on the business side of things, and that's my fault. If anyone takes the blame, it's my fault. And here we are over the past few months gaining some popularity, especially over the past week with Loopring Pay. So finally, we're getting some at least awareness. So that's
important.
It's very important and it's very appreciated. We're so happy, and honestly, it makes our engineers who have been working on this for 3 years so happy, right? We have users like we could see every day because everything is on chain. I like the thing that I check the most, by the way, is not price, is not anything. It's just users on the ZK rollup, which is right now about 2,580 or something like that.
Okay, and you are going to before talking about the staking and the tokenomics, whatever. The business model for Loopring is very clear. I mean, basically are the trading fees or the fees of the protocol. So this is something very clear. So I think that we don't need to add anything if you say that, at least if you say, no, this is something that is going to change or whatever. So I will go straight on to the growth that you had in these days. So what about the numbers, especially for the users? So how many users? You already said we have more than 2,000 of users on ZK Rollup. But what about the growth? So how much is growing Loopring in terms of users? And what about the volumes and basically this is related to the security? How much is the total value locked in the in the entry point for the ZK Rollup?
Right. Very good questions. And I'm kind of tempted to share my screen, but maybe it'll be too laggy. I want to show the Dune Analytics page. That's kind of our dashboard, is like Dune Analytics, duneanalytics.com/loopring. And you'll see it's like a view into our entire, you see everything under the hood. But to answer some of your questions specifically, so I'll tell you what the user account chart looks like. Day one that we announced the exchange, Loopring.io, at the end of February, let's call it February 29th, this past year, it was like, boom, 1,000 users signed up, okay? Probably like people, maybe like you and me who, eat and breathe DeFi and Ethereum, and maybe some of your listeners. It's, and by the way, if you're on the Dune Analytics page, we kind of cut out that beginning because it skewed the chart so much. It was like 1,000. Oh,
yeah,
okay. Oh, perfect. That's awesome. So there you see 2,575. If you scroll down a bit more, please, a bit more.
Okay, yeah.
Loopring new account. So we kind of clip off the beginning there, because if we didn't, you would just see an outlier to like 1,000 and everything else would look like a blip, okay? So you see it like on days 1 and 2, you had like 1,000 people join, and those are the real. It's that's bringing you into the actual query, I think.
Because okay, my
yeah.
computer is lagging too. So
that's okay.
But anyway, the growth is clear.
So yeah, now you know what's that this recent bump in growth is from scroll up a little bit. Okay, there you go. Like that big bump up is from Loopring Pay announcement. You see we're going steady, and then it really spiked up recently with Loopring Pay, when people have the ability to send transfers for free and fast on the ZK rollup. That brought a whole new kind of user base in, people that don't want to trade. I made a joke yesterday, maybe it wasn't a very good joke on Twitter, but I said that 40 was our resistance level on new users. That was resistance. And then finally we broke through recently with that recent spike, and I hope that it acts as a support, that we add at least 40 new users to the ZK rollup every day. But so the growth is clear. It kind of was a big spike because probably all the DeFi hardcore people came on, and then it's like, a slog. How do you get people on? And now this new product, payments, it brings people on, and everything is increasing. Volume, you see there's almost $10 million locked on the exchange. What's very funny, and you'd probably appreciate, like on DeFi Pulse, on the rankings, we're moving up the rankings, and just yesterday we kind of flipped Lightning Network. There's more money. There's more money now locked in Loopring than Lightning Network. And so people were saying, hey, on DeFi Pulse, you shouldn't just be a DEX. You should also be like payments, in the payments category, because then you would actually be at the top of the payments category. But I think that it's just funny that a lot of our community members are excited about that. But yeah, I guess I can't remember if there's any more nuance to that question. But yeah, that's what growth is like. We're seeing good growth these past few weeks.
Yeah. 2,000 of you. I think that the Ethereum itself, probably, I don't remember if it crossed 1 million of accounts. I don't remember the exact number, but just in DeFi, I think that are in the order of 10,000. So if you were able to onboard 20% of the of the entire user base for just the DeFi, just 2 weeks, it's self-explanatory. So there is nothing to say. Okay, let's move to the state. So very congrats and kudos to the team. I know that as an engineer, that seeing that the product that you build, that you become crazy every night, is going to be used and works, is the best satisfaction that you may have. But move to the staking also, because we don't want to let you invest too much time, but we will see. We are approaching the 1 hour of call. So Loopring has a staking program because basically the fee collected by the exchange basically are shared to the staked users. So can you explain a little bit what's the tokenomics of LRC and how the staking is involved? And which are the constraints? For example, some of our users are asking why we have 90, for example, days of lockup. So explain why, how works the tokenomics, and why people should stake, for example, and which are the benefits of staking along to the constraints that you may have.
Exactly. Okay, so I'll get right to it. LRC is stakeable by users or anybody, let's call that normal people, to get a claim of the protocol fees, which is any trade, let's forget payments for a second, any trade that gets settled on the Loopring network. And that's not just Loopring.io. Remember, Loopring is an open protocol. Right now, there's another DEX built on Loopring version 3 on the ZK version in Shenzhen called WeDex.
WeDex, yeah.
WeDex.
I think the first one, right?
Yes, actually, they launched before our own product. They launched before.
I remember.
Yeah. So now there's 2 exchanges built on the Loopring protocol. Any trade that gets settled on it, 6 basis points goes into the fee vault, the protocol fee vault, and stakers have a claim on that fee vault. You stake your tokens, your LRC tokens, by locking them up for 90 days. I'll get to that 90 days in a second. Maybe I have a controversial opinion on it. But yeah, so you get 6 basis points. So more volume, more activity, better off for the LRC stakers. Those are for the regular, anybody could stake. A DEX owner, so Loopring.io and WeDex.io, also has to stake. When they spin up a contract, which is just like literally one function call on Ethereum, they also have to stake some amount, which is configurable. Right now, we've kind of implemented these amounts, but they are going to be configurable later when LRC becomes, here's, I guess, another additional thing, as a governance token, as a voting token. But right now, a DEX owner must stake some LRC before they spin up their exchange contract. And if they misbehave in certain ways, they get slashed. And those slashings also go to the fee vault, which are claimable by the LRC stakers. So what a DEX owner is staking for, remember I told you that their hands are tied. Our security does not depend on LRC staking. It depends on just Ethereum and zero knowledge cryptography, nothing else. That's why we exist. But there's certain cases where a DEX owner could be annoying or like slow or just suboptimal in performance. That is, when you actually click something on the Loopring exchange, to your eyes, it's instant because, okay, you've sent the request to that operator and now they're going to wait until maybe 1,000 more things come in, and then they're starting the compression. But what if you do something, like you press something and they just never submit that block, which is possible, by the way. That's a possible attack vector here. If they do things like that, if they do it, they will get slashed. So it's kind of like a service level guarantee or an economic security guarantee before the ultimate cryptographic proof is submitted. There's this interim period. Let's say it's like 2 minutes, where your stuff isn't submitted into the block yet. You want some guarantees that what the operator says they're going to do, they will do. So they have some skin in the game in the form of LRC. Yeah. So that's that. And if they misbehave, they get slashed. Some of this, though, like what I just said, is going to cease to be true in future versions, because actually our chief architect came up with a way that we commit the blocks and the proof at the same time. So there's actually not even like an interim period of proving time. So we're making it even like more service level secure. The protocol level without the LRC. So this model is a year old now. It's 1 year old, what I just described. We have made so much advancement that the LRC staking model is really something we think that we're going to bring into the present with us. We've made so much advancement. We have a lot of things in our mind to be able to kind of spice it up and re-anchor it in the current state of the protocol. But that is what it's for. Users stake it to get a claim. DEX stake it for this like service level guarantee. Back to the question of why 90 days, Emiliano, the answer is quite honestly, it's arbitrary, and we wanted it to be some period. We wanted it to be people with like some skin in the game. And it's also, so we chose 90 days. My personal opinion, and not everybody agrees with everything internal to an organization.
Yeah, it's normal.
I want to narrow that window quite a bit, and we will. Our epochs are going to be shorter. They simply are. I don't like the idea of people having to lock it up for 90 days. I actually like the idea of them staking, having an epoch of like 1 week, 2 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, this is something more. I mean, it's a very big barrier. I mean, I think that because the trade-off in this sense is that if you have, if the people know that they have to commit very long, you basically remove a lot of noise, a lot of people that maybe stake just for it. And the issue is also, I mean, that you have few stakers. This is important for the stakers because they receive more fees, I mean, individually. If you narrow the window, you could have more stakers. So in terms of, the token price, you are locking and probably the price is rising more. But at the same time, you may have users that are, oh, okay, great, I staked it, I don't know, 500 LRC, and receiving what? It doesn't cover neither the claim stuff. So this is something that, okay, I will, as soon as I can, I remove. So I think that it's not easy to tune the right window to, get the good amount of users. But this is, I mean, you just have to do some research and some simulation, basically. That's something very easy.
You're so right, and I think you basically hit the nail on the head. I think our to be honest, like our CEO, when he kind of came up with 90 days. Not that it was a unilateral decision. We were all kind of, I mean, it was a year ago, right? It was less research. We said, hey, we want real believers staking. 90 days, you know, it gets rid of the riffraff, but there's certainly cases to be made both ways, and LRC will have, you know, now that we're also a payment protocol, it could have different there's different use cases that are literally being born as of last week for LRC, right? Because with maybe people will stake it to ensure that you're in a block, like the next, all these things that you could do with like receipts. Anyways, LRC is definitely a fluid thing. We're keen on. One thing that I really want to tie it to is liquidity provision. I want people not just to stake passively. I want them to be also, I want stakers to have another component in the equation that is liquidity provided or voting provided. So it's kind of like your stake plus or times the amount of good behavior you're, because ultimately, and we're seeing this right now with things like Balancer and all that, a token is an incredible tool for an ecosystem to incentivize their desired behavior, whether that's liquidity, whether that's voting. This is me just speaking honestly. We want LRC holders want to optimize for some outcome. Let's do that, right? Let's use LRC as a tool for that outcome. Yeah.
No, clear. I mean, my feedback in this sense, seeing Loopring from the external, is that in terms of technology and the products, there are, I mean, not so many words to describe. It was cool, it's working, it's the first solution, so it's going to be, at least if you have any problems, it's going to have success. I think that in terms of how to say, token usages, we need to see something more, because right now seems to be, I mean, it's not competitive in some sense to the other players. I mean, we already know that, for example, Kyber is renewed with the Catalyst upgrade their tokenomics. Balancer, for example, released the concept of mining the BAL token for governance, or for Comp, for example, is giving a reward based on how much do you use. So you are invited to borrow or to lend money. So in terms of LLC, I see some, you know, classical approach that anyway are strictly modern because other players are not doing. But I would like to see some cool feature that say, okay, I will provide, for example, liquidity, and if I stake also, I have some gain or something like that. So I think that my suggestion, obviously, from Emiliano is think more about the tokenomics better. But anyway, the initiative for our users to stay, if they believe in the LRC token, and also if they are user of LLC, because basically they pay the fee on the exchange and they get back, diluted by the share of the pool, but they get back basically the money. This is something very cool. So in this sense, I think that I'm looking for the question on the chat and on the forms that the user has filled, and we don't have any other question. Before going to the end and just asking our usual one final question, I would like to ask you about the gasless experience on Loopring. So, for example, as soon as I'm in to Loopring, this is something that I mean, it resembles a centralized experience. Everything is gasless. I just need to sign whatever I need to do. But what about the borders? Do you have in plan to, you know, invite people to put liquidity in and to get out without spending fees? I mean, Ethereum fees, because I think that this could be something very cool for, you know, less people. Oh, they pay for me to enter, to play, and then also pay for going out. So what about your decision in this direction? If you have
Yes. Yeah, no, very good question. And by the way, just back to your last topic, I appreciate your suggestion. And I am on the same page as you on the tokenomics front. So I really do appreciate your opinion there, and I agree with it. So as you said, I've been using this new marketing lingo lately. Hey, join Ethereum's fast lane. Join the fast lane, or I'd like to join the fast and cheap lane. Yeah. Oh, maybe that's
reckless driving. This is reckless driving for sure.
You're right. No, that's true. That's true.
No, I'm joking, obviously. We just need the, the truck.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, once you're on the ZK rollup, it's gasless. You'll never see gas. You'll sign messages. Like if I have to pay, if I want to send you one DAI or even like half of a DAI, I sign a message, but there's no gas fees. Indeed, on payments, it's free right now. Of course, nothing is free for us. Everything has a cost on Ethereum. Ours is just very, very, this is a big question I've been getting since we launched Pay 1 week ago is, hey, how is this free? The truth is it's not free. We could settle 1 million transfers, payments for $60, okay? So that's 0.00006
Too many zeros.
Yeah, too many zeros. It's a negligible cost for us. That's why we say, hey, it's on us, it's free. Send as much as your heart desires, and it's so cheap for us. Because again, we're taking a whole bunch of things and putting it on Ethereum, and we only have a fixed cost plus a little incremental cost per thing to do it. So it's cheap. At the borders, as you say, getting onto and off of this fast lane, you are interacting with the normal slow congestion of Ethereum. You have to pay, and you're interacting with layer 1. You have to pay an on-chain transaction. So here's where you would on-chain to Ethereum. Register your account, right? Emiliano.eth registering, that takes an on-chain fee. Then depositing your assets, that takes an on-chain fee. Then you're on there and you're as fast as you want, as free, no gas. And then you withdraw back to Emiliano.eth. That's a gas transaction. So can we abstract this or make it a better experience? Certainly we can. In the really kind of hacky, bad way to do it, it's just like, hey, come on board with this code and we will reimburse you the gas fee. We could do it like that, right? Or there's kind of a cool thing that we're going to be able to do in this next interim release, which is like somebody could create accounts for their friends.
Oh, this is something that I would like to do stuff on behalf of things. I mean, doing X on behalf of is the key.
Is exactly, that's what I would love for you to be able to take your community, if you knew their Ethereum addresses, you say, okay, you all have ZK rollup accounts now. Because right now, indeed, it's like any social network. I could only send to Emiliano.eth if you're on the ZK rollup. I can't, but very soon I'll be able to send to Emiliano.eth, and then that will create the account. So so then you just go on and you're like, oh, I have this new account for myself. So things like that, we definitely that will be possible shortly.
Yeah. I come up from the experience of SNX Link, where we claim, for example, or execute operation on behalf of the users for the synthetics platforms. For example, the weekly rewards are claimed on behalf of and we saw that this concept works because the users don't want to do that kind of operation. They prefer that someone did for them. When people basically decouple spending something and executing something, you have win basically, because they don't have anymore the friction of doing something, and they are willing to do. And maybe they, as in the case of SNX Link, pay in advance for doing that job, but they don't see anymore the front barrier. So this is quite cool. Anyway, clear. I would like to see which one, or maybe they are not mutually exclusive. They could be one in advancing time and then the other stuff on later on. So I think that we are at the end. So I would like to give you the honor to say what you said to me on the chat about the, the possibility for the users to join Loopring and have, Loopring could be more convenient for the one that are just following right now in the YouTube live, but also for the DeFi Italy users. So what about the,
Yes.
what are you doing for us?
So thank you for that lead up. And this is even a surprise to you. This concept of creating the account for a user and making it so easy to onboard, you've just inspired me. I'm serious to maybe go a bit beyond what I told you, and I'll offer something personally just to make it easier for DeFi Italy people to come on. So what we were going to say is, if you go to loopring.io and register with the code DeFi Italy, you'll have the highest level VIP tier for 6 months. And all that really gives you, it sounds so fancy, it just gives you the lowest fees on the exchange. So 0% maker fees and 6 basis point taker fees. So 0.06% taker fees. And that is a 40% reduction from the 10 basis point taker fees of a standard user. So you'll get the highest VIP tier, DeFi Italy. You have to register with that code. Remember, we spoke about Emiliano.eth has to register. That's where you would enter DeFi Italy. But because of, here's a little extra add-on. If you do that, and then just, I guess I'll have to have a way to kind of filter it out. If you just DM me, or even DM Emiliano and he'll relay it to me, I will reimburse your gas fee for creating the account. It should be a couple bucks. Maybe it'll be a bit less sometimes, maybe it'll be a bit more, but I'll send you something on the ZK rollup.
Oh, please, great.
Right there, it's free. I'll send you some LRC. I'll send. So I mean, I'm Finestone Matt on Twitter, or just get to Emiliano, say, hey, just to be clear though, and I want to put privacy first. If you say, hey, I registered with DeFi Italy and this is my account ID, there's no names, right? There's no KYC, there's no personal information.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, I'm account ID number 2576, then just realize that because a ZK rollup, everything is put on chain, that I will know that your Twitter account is related to this Merkle tree account ID, which is related to your Ethereum address. So just make sure you're okay with somebody knowing that a Twitter handle owns one of these Ethereum addresses. But if you do, that's it.
Yeah, and you know what? I would like to transform this big offer. I can say that I don't have any words, but I think that this could be a very good tool also for you. If we say, okay, guys, if you do a tweet from your Twitter account, if you want, for example, and say, hey, I have activated Loopring for DeFi Italy, and this is my this is my ID. Please give me the money. No, obviously not like this, but something very similar. This could be, oh fuck, how many people are registering on Loopring? So you get also a marketing effect for this initiative. So the bucks, I mean,
right,
you could spend less. I mean, you can spend more on doing this kind of marketing campaign, but if you want, we can organize this kind of stuff.
Emiliano, you're very smart, because what you just described exists on loopring.io right now, specifically for Loopring Pay. If I send you a transfer, right after it completes in 1 second, it says success, tweet. There's a tweet button. If you click tweet, it autofills. I just sent a layer 2 transfer on Ethereum. It was gasless. It was instant. And it asks you to tweet that. And it inputs your referral code, which is just your account ID. And then we have this little promotion since launching a week ago up until the 15th. Whoever makes a transfer and tweets that, just again, you have to DM us, just because we need to know. But that we give you 40 LRC, which is currently worth $4. we started, the price has changed since then. So and look, this is in addition to this DeFi Italy deal, which gives you the best fee tier plus your gas fee reimbursed. Once you're on there, definitely send a transfer so that the tweet pops up, tweet it, and then you'll get another 40 LRC. I don't want to sound like too promotional, like all these things. Usually,
but this is something that helps the user. I mean, for you guys, it's not a so big cost. I mean, because you want to do this kind of cost because you want to grow. But for the user, this could be an entry barrier. And if we lower, it's a deal for everyone.
Absolutely, get a couple of bucks while you're going into the this layer 2. But yeah, I don't want to sound too much all these promotions. Really, we haven't done many of these, but I'm very happy to do this with you. And you know what? I'll say one final thing. Besides just like marketing, oh, here it is on Twitter, the ZK rollup is only really fun, for at least for payments, when your friends are on there. Because again, I could only send to Emiliano.eth for free if you're on there with me. So that's why it's good to share it, because the network effect, it's a flywheel, it gets going. So it's very important for us to share that information.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You just need a mobile app and then you are gone.
That's coming, by the way.
Yeah, I know. And great. So we're finished. It was very happy. I mean, it was, I think, one of the most exciting interview that we had, and this is something that it's going to be an historic event. I mean, in terms of technology, but also product side. This kind of players, Loopring, Diversify, Alex with the Matter Lab. So we want to follow from the very close this kind of initiative. But before closing the interview, the final question for every our interviewer is, do you have any question for us, for me, for the community, for Simone that he cannot be here? He's the other co-founder of DeFi Italy.
Yes. Oh, great. I always have many questions. I mean, I have some Loopring specific questions although you've already given me your advice, so that's nice on some things. Okay. I mean, I don't have the benefit of being able to ask the whole community at once, but how do you think we could bring more people onto, we have a solution that is solving a big problem right now in this Ethereum high gas environment. I just wish I could, pull everybody onto our solution. So it's like, let us help you. How can we better help people help themselves, get them educated that these things exist? We're the first. How could we get everybody aware?
Okay. This is a very good and hard question, but I would like to split in two questions. Your question. The first one is how to let people be aware of Loopring, and the second, how can we pull more and more people in our platform? So for letting people be aware of your platform, this kind of initiative, so doing an interview with the community manager of the various, country-specific communities are the best idea. I mean, leveraging to discuss about them, collecting questions, realizing initiatives that are economically incentive for people is something that attract people to look at you. So this is the first things that you have to do. In terms of users, in terms of builders, I appreciated that you did the announcement. I would like to say to you, hey guys, do a Gitcoin bounty, because as soon as you incentivize people to build on top of you, I mean, many users in our community that are builders asked, but can be Loopring integrated maybe, for example, in Edu or other stuff. So how can I build something on top of Loopring? So doing the interview with you, for example, business development for the community, and doing initiative like the Gitcoin bounties, some sort of developer advocate that talk, some engineer that maybe is good in communication, that do some, you know, the guy Sergey from 1inch, that do video articles and a video on YouTube. This is something that quite help, because people start to see, okay, yes, I can test that you can give some bunch of LRC token for experimenting. This is something that works, and we have a track history of things that work in this. Many project bonds in this way. So this is the first part. For the how I pull people, more and more pull people, you have to do, for example, recently launched a trading competition. So say, hey guys, we are giving this kind of packs for doing, so they are very product specific. So I think that the do initiative that you did, for example, for the trading, giving a reward for the, you have a leaderboard, people start to play, like, Synthetics did with Optimism, and it has a great success. You are doing the same for the Loopring paid initiative with the tweet stuff is working. My advice in this sense is that not every people is using Twitter. So if you want to eat those kind of people, because it's a front, I know it's very easy to open a Twitter account, but why you have to open an account in this sense? So having something like a tipping bot for Telegram, or a tipping bot for Discord, or this kind of opportunity is something that, okay, let's see how it works. And you can do, because basically it could be something that can say, okay, I'm registered to the ZK rollup, so I can delegate to you in some sense the execution of some stuff. I just have to see something. You can do, and I think that Zilliqa has something like this for Telegram, and we have, I don't remember the name, but a very famous bot for doing the stuff on Discord. So if you let the people play with no cost in addition to the stuff that they have to do, this is something that say, okay, fuck, this is working. And my experience is very good. So in this sense, you attract. In terms of businesses, if we see maybe some, I would like to see some direct fiat on ramp or fiat off ramp directly to the layer 2. I have a fucking exchange that is decentralized, with a very good technology, and I can enter and exit in fiat, and you delegate the KYC process to the external parties that could be trusted, Wire, Ramp Network. One could say, oh, why not? I know the guys from Idle Finance did an agreement with Ramp Network to lower to zero for a little period the fees from Ramp Network. So this is something that you can probably do. And this is something I have the first exchange that if I want to be privacy reserving, I can do all my stuff without doing the fiat stuff. But I would like to try and don't bother about, I mean, it would be like a Coinbase stuff. This is something very cool. And to close the circle, invest a lot in the product. I mean, right now it's just a DEX. Now we have people that are, I mean, I'm very, I know that some people in the community is more, they know better how to pull funds on Banker, for example, or how to use a specific lending protocol. So we see that the user become more and more advanced. So if you offer a product that could be cool for specific reason, but has a feature set that is in some sense behind the stuff that they are used to do, also if they are going to pay many things, or they are say, okay, but what, I mean, you have the right now we are living a moment where doing transaction Ethereum cost a lot. So you can win because, hey guys, I'm free. Come on. But as soon as, and it will be, the gas stuff, also thanks to you, because you basically move the load of the network to your layer 2, then the stuff say, I mean, other players can say, okay, you see, except for a little bit of, more expenses for doing the stuff, but I have plenty of liquidity. I have this. One could say, okay, I will switch over there. But I think that you will have time. So this is my answer, maybe too extended in some sense.
No, I really like that. Seriously, thank you. I'm not just saying that. It's helpful. You have good insights on this. And thank you for knowing actually all of our little promotions that or programs that we've put out these past few days. We're still live, right? Or are we still recording here?
Yeah, we are still recording. Okay. I mean, there are plenty of people right now that are writing on the.
What I'd like to reiterate, and thank you for knowing like so much about us on this front is, yeah, we opened. Hey, so you mentioned before, hey, what can we see on the exchange? Just so you know, we open sourced Loopring.io. So the Loopring.io front end is now open source. Please, I guess the best way to see what I'm talking about is just go to loopring.org and then to the blogs, and you'll see the most 2 recent blog posts. But we open source the front end. So if you want to see something on the Loopring.io front end, make a pull request or fork it. Go do it.
I will do,
Or please make a pull request. We are going to merge them periodically. The reason why we open sourced it is because we're actually focusing a lot more on our mobile app. Our strategies, a lot of people kind of don't realize this, is to take everything we've built, this leading layer 2 scalability, and to distill it into a mobile smart contract wallet, Loopring wallet, specifically focused on China, but global, of course. That is just going to be the best way to onboard people onto Ethereum, onto DeFi. Because once they come on, there's no gas, there's no fee, there's no long waits.
Yeah. All the narrative, works. Yeah.
So are tacked in to everywhere. But so just thank you for reminding me, guys. If you want to see something on Loopring.io, please make a pull request. Have your way with it. Also, we created a bounty on Gitcoin for 25,000 LRC, which is right now $2,500 for just a UI for Loopring Pay. Loopring Pay right now basically just exists within the exchange at Loopring.io. It's not so sexy. It's not that cool. So we said, hey, please build one over these next 3 weeks. So please, guys, go to Gitcoin. And if you're a designer out there, build our Loopring Pay UI. You may end up building the prettiest portal for Ethereum payments that is out there. And the other thing, the trading competition, for all you traders out there, starting on June 15th and lasting for 1 month, if you just create orders, place orders on the books.
Be a maker, basically.
Be a maker on ETH USDT or LRC USDT. There is 6,000 USDT that is up for grabs, that is going proportionally to those people. So if you have a bot, it's going to pay you to basically right now add some liquidity to ETH USDT or LRC USDT. So thank you, Emiliano, for knowing about those programs and for reminding me. I think you are right on with everything you said. I might have to start hitting you up for some more advice in the future. I don't know.
Feel free. Our community, and I'm very proud of it, to be honest, because we scaled from 10 users in November 2019 to more than 900 right now, and we become in 1 month the biggest community with 500 users just in 1 month in December.
Oh wow!
And it was a great achievement. It was, as you mentioned before, you are very informed, Emiliano. You study. We study a lot because we believe that. We are marketers too. That we want to push, we want to leverage hype, but should be, how to say, a responsible hype, a responsible communication. That what we want to do is to educate people, to test with them. We have a token that we leverage for experimenting diverse stuff, but every month we before COVID, obviously, before the coronavirus, we did a monthly meetup analyzing the platform, which are the pros and cons. So just not the, pushing about news and so on. Yes, we do also, but we believe a lot. And our users are really experimenters. And it's one of the few communities that has a very broad kind of users, from maybe the new buy users that come from the centralized world to the right now more expensive DeFi users, to builders too, or to lawyers and vendors. So it's very broad. That's why we also have a Discord server where we use it for people that can build things on it. So as soon as you want to have a clear feedback, an honest feedback, or want to do some user research, feel free to contact me. Feel free to do directly a pull. Maybe it's better if I translate to Italian, because I see many blames in some sense. Oh, fuck, this is so interesting, but it's in English. Some part is not, I don't understand, but obviously I will do a debrief later on. But feel free to do, because we believe a lot. I personally believe a lot in this sector. So for sure, we want to help any kind of platform that to achieve the success, as on obviously the how to say the goals from the users and from the company are aligned. Otherwise, obviously not. So that's all. I think that
well,
I mean, 1 hour and a half.
I know, I wasn't expecting it. I haven't eaten breakfast yet. I'm gonna pass out soon. But hey, congrats to you. I didn't realize how big this community was. Excuse me for not knowing the extent of it, but congrats to you. And maybe now, I hope all 900 or all 500 people don't convert on my offer, or I'm going to go broke. So hopefully there's...
no, you don't know. You don't know.
No,
you said you have to do. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Probably people are already
right now. Okay, I'm there until... but just I reserve the right to not go broke honoring this offer. But one thing I'll say, I'll join the Discord. Now that the Loopring.io is open sourced and the pay bounty, maybe I could give the DeFi Italy community a smaller task or bounty to localize it in the Italian language.
For sure. I think that this is something that will be done. I mean, we have many examples that we already did this kind of job, and users are very willing. I mean, that if you look for the statistics, for example, if you look for the Wirex statistics, the Italian country is the most affected to crypto. So many players. I mean, if you look for the distribution of Wirex, I think it's public. If it's not, I hope to cancel this part of the recording. But most of the users are Italian. I mean that it's very active in this sense.
Right, unbelievable, really impressive, and I'm thankful you had me, Emiliano. It's an exciting time for us. So thank you to the whole community for. If you've tuned in for this hour and a half, you're a real fan, I guess, at this point. But thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, and have a brunch or
yes,
a lunch or whatever you eat something.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Thank you, Matt, and see you soon.
Yes, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.